Okay, I'm on it. Yes, I'm definitely going to talk more about permaculture. Thank you for this comment. So obviously my channel, Parker's Permaculture, I have had a permaculture YouTube channel for like a decade. I got into permaculture in 1997. Permaculture is a very niche design philosophy created by David Holmgren and Bill Mollison, two Australians, back in the 1970s. It is a portmanteau of permanent and agriculture or permanent and culture. The whole premise behind permaculture is creating just, resilient, abundant food systems that weave together the three ethics of earth care, people care, and fair share, in the hope that we can heal our relationship with our planet and feed people, create a higher quality of life, create societies of people that live abundant, secure lives with good food security, without exploiting each other and without exploiting the planet. I am somebody who's always had a significant interest in sustainable food systems, sustainable agriculture, and I was involved in the Women Food and Agriculture Network in college in Iowa, and I really got into permaculture when it was far more niche than it is now. Around Y2K maybe, and definitely in the years following, a lot of libertarian prepper, kind of Mormon homesteaders co-opted a lot of permaculture and falsely presented it to much of the world as kind of like hippie gardening, as a more environmentally friendly way to be a prepper. That's not what permaculture is at all. In the last several years, I've tried to make a lot more content talking about social permaculture, because permaculture is this design system. It has 12 principles, and we use it to craft not only our agricultural systems, but we understand that we don't grow food separate from human society. Okay, sorry, I had to take a break. My husband got home from grocery shopping. He does all the grocery shopping, so we were saying hi real quick. So when we look at permaculture design, right? Permanent and agriculture and permanent and culture. Human beings grow food to feed human beings. You can't divorce agriculture from societies of people, from our food distribution systems. We can't divorce agriculture from food culture, from our nutritional needs, from the fact that eating is very much a social event. In permaculture, we understand that everything is connected, and that created this kind of offshoot led very much by a writer named Luby McNamara for social permaculture. She wrote a book called People and Permaculture. It's quite good. I really have an affinity for this whole element of social permaculture, that we need to understand that we exist in societies, we relate to other people, and that we can use the 12 principles of permaculture to have healthier relationships and thereby build a more just and sustainable society. We're living right now in the United States of America, having conflict, having people who don't understand how to have healthy relationships with each other, having people who are divorced from community, having these toxic ways of treating other people and relating to other people, how much harm that does, how farther that takes us from a just and sustainable future. We are farther away now from protecting the planet than we have been at any point in the last 20 years at least. Right, the Trump regime has repealed a whole bunch of environmental protections. Now it's like totally fine for PM 2.5 particulate matter and other particulate matter to just be belched out all over the place and into our water and into our air. We're going back to a time where things are going to look like they did before the Clean Air Act. The Trump regime and the USDA under Brooke Rollins have now said that they can use PFAS chemicals on our food. Maybe don't want to be buying romaine lettuce now because it's going to be allowed to be coated in forever chemicals. We are farther away in this fascist oligarchical system. We are farther away from sustainability than we have been in a really long time. We are moving backward. Donald Trump is regressing this nation. And I think that's why it's more important than ever that we talk about permaculture. It's more important than ever that we push for the kinds of reforms using the kinds of design elements, components of permaculture that will help us get out of what we're experiencing now and work toward a society where our needs are met and we can meet our needs without exploiting other people and the planet. Too many of the kind of prepper, Mormon ballerina farm-esque folks, too many of the like homestead bloggers co-opted some elements of permaculture, but they advertised it as like techniques you can use for self-sufficiency. And I get really upset when people say that. For 20 plus years, I've been saying there's no such thing as self-sufficiency. There is only community interdependence. Self-sufficiency is a myth. We should never strive for self-sufficiency. America's toxic individualism, this false belief that you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, this totally bullshit notion that you are somehow separate from other people and do not depend on other people. Yeah, I'm not here for that. I'm going to push back against that every single day of the week. We are stronger together. We are more resilient when we come together and we share resources. There are economies of scale at play. But more than that, we need each other. Human beings have evolved for community. We are stronger when we pool our resources. We share our ideas. And that's sort of what I talk about with social permaculture as well. It's not just about communication styles. It's not just about learning, like DBT therapy. It's also about how do we organize our society, right? Why is it that we don't have universal healthcare? That's a very permaculture thing. Why is it that we don't have like light rail across this country? If we're using permaculture design elements, we're going to structure our society in a way that is more efficient, that produces less waste, that increases our quality of life, and is not only more sustainable, it is more resilient, it is more abundant. I could talk about permaculture endlessly. I have a number of videos on how there are a number of problems with permaculture. It was a system built by two white dudes in Australia, right? And it's gonna have some shortcomings. There is a lot of taking from indigenous practice. There has been a lot of silencing women's voices, devaluing women's voices and our perspective when it comes to permaculture. There's been a little tad of eugenics in permaculture as well. It doesn't mean that we cannot refine and jettison those harmful parts. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't learn from those and work to make amends. There are loads of indigenous people in permaculture. There are now loads of women in permaculture. It is a really useful design system. The 12 principles and especially the 3 ethics. Permaculture design is not just a framework that we use to create our, pointing out my window here at one of my pawpaw trees, not just that we use to create food forest gardens, not just that we use to grow enough food to feed ourselves and our neighbors. It's not just about small family farms using more sustainable methods. It's also about how we structure society in a way that is just, resilient, that prioritizes earth care, people care, and fair share, that understands we are all connected, that understands we cannot harm this part of our system without there being a ripple effect that impacts us now. I am happy to talk extensively about any of the principles of permaculture, any of the flaws of permaculture, any of the ethics and how we apply them. Not only my own experience of permaculture in terms of like gardening in my backyard. If you go on my YouTube, I have a lot of videos about the evolution of my garden. I've been here 17 years. Also my experience gardening in an apartment before this. Permaculture is not just something for people who own a house and have land or who have some small holding with 1, 5, 20 acres. It is a design system that can and should be used to help all of us have a better quality of life, a more sustainable quality of life in urban spaces, within our governments, how we relate to each other. Gosh, it's that interconnectedness of all people, of all things, understanding the continuum, understanding the intricacies of the system so that we can tweak and shape and harness it for maximum abundance. Permaculture is an abundance-based system. And I don't mean fucking Ezra Klein, who took the term abundance and used it for his neoliberal, pro-capitalist, whatever. Permaculture and capitalism are like not compatible. You can't have a capitalist system that is predicated on exploitation of people and the planet, the accumulation of profit by a few at the top. That is completely in every way antithetical to earth care, people care, and fair share, originally entitled Set Limits to Consumption. It's about distribution of resources in an equitable way. Can't have that in a capitalist system. So I'm also happy to talk about my anti-capitalist leanings because they uphold my permaculture values. And also the reason that I make so much political content now is because I feel obligated to use my platform. I don't see how we can build the permaculture future that I long for. We can institute these plans and these systems while we are fighting fascism. And we can't do that in a fascist society. For me, living out the ethics of earth care and people care is using my fair share of resources, my time, my platform, my energy, to advocate for democracy, to advocate for the planet that is being raped and exploited by the Trump regime, by corporations, to advocate for people that are being deprived of their liberty, brutalized, killed by the Trump regime. I don't know how else I could use my platform at this point in time other than to fight against fascism. So that's why you don't hear me talk that much about permaculture expressly in terms of the principles and design elements, but I'm absolutely happy to do so. So thank you. I appreciate the question. Any specifics, I'm happy to answer.